Hello, everybody, and welcome back at Adobe Live. I'm so excited to be here with Lisa Carney. Hi, Lisa. How's it going?
Hi, baby. Really good. Glad to be back.
So we are here for day 2, discovering the new features of Adobe Lightroom with Lisa. If you have missed yesterday, don't worry, you can always catch the replay on Behance and YouTube. And you can also just join us today. Lisa has really blown everybody's mind with all the wonderful information about how to use Lightroom on a mobile, iPad, and also desktop. We are working in this wonderful ecosystem with images and also with different sort of machines as well. Again, we're going cross media as well with the phone and with the desktop as well. But I want also to remind everybody before we move forward with the today's show that there is more informations are available about Lightroom. In fact, you can watch the replay if you have missed today shows already on Behance and YouTube. You can always go back and watch the replays. In particular, there is the Lightroom manager that is there in order to show you all the brand new features that just come out this morning. So make sure to tune in order to watch Adobe Live. And Lisa, we want to learn more about you. I know that many people have already learned a lot yesterday, but I'm so excited to, if you can give us a little bit more of an introduction again about you. I know that you are a movie poster, a retoucher, but also a photographer. Yesterday, we talked about a lot about inspiration. So if you can just give it for those of us in the chat. I mean, I know you and we are friends as well. So I know you very well already, but I'm sure that the world needs to know you more.
Oh, that's very sweet. It is funny when you're talking to someone who you know so well and you're like, what are you talking about? You know who I am, but I can show you my deck here. So yeah, I'm what's called a finisher. So I do movie posters. And what that means is there's design for movie posters, and then there's finishing. And that means you rebuild it from scratch all over again. So I'm a designer, photographer, and finisher, retoucher, compositor. I do a lot. And it encompasses this entire Adobe world, which is one of the reasons I'm so thrilled to be back here to talk about this and talk about Lightroom in specific. And you know what? I want to note something that you just mentioned earlier about that, the new Lightroom features just came out on I think it was Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, it was Monday.
Yeah, a bunch of new features. And one of the most brilliant things you all do, which I'm so thrilled about, is you have multiple presenters who are so different. So Benjamin Ward, who is the Lightroom senior product director, his style is 1,000% different than mine. And then Aaron Nace was just on, and you guys can rewatch that. And I have to tell you, I watched both of those this morning, and I'm sitting there taking notes because I learned from them. So I just really thank you guys for putting on such an amazing broad spectrum learning channel.
Yes, and thank you so much for mentioning, Lisa, because I was trying to do the introduction. I had something beeping in my hand, so I was just like, I can't do it. I can't say names with a beep. I don't know what's going to happen there.
We're in here together, honey.
But we're all good. Thank you so much.
No worries. So I'll just let folks know that they can find my work at lisacarney.com for my professional work, like my retouching work. And then I use Behance as a showcase for my portfolio. And I'd really recommend folks to put your work up on Behance, share, get your stuff out there. It's a great place to put your work up and let clients find you. So especially if y'all are starting out, make a Behance portfolio. And when you send an inquiry out to get a job and they're like, oh, great, where's your work? You can put it on Behance and it looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I really want to encourage folks to do that. I'm on Instagram as well. And again, Instagram is just my photo work, none of that retouching business, but just my personal stuff if you're interested. And can I give a plug for Adobe Max?
Of course.
Is that good? I'm so excited by this. And I don't know if y'all know this, but Adobe Max has been online and in person, like with COVID, obviously not in person. So you can go to Adobe Max and watch all of last year's sessions, all of them. Cloudy, did you do one last year?
Yes, I've done 2 last year and I have 2 coming up this year as well. So I'm very, very excited about it.
Come see us both, and then we'll be both doing live the 18th through 20th in LA, and I'm doing Mobile Magic once again. So it's all Lightroom mobile, Lightroom, because I love it.
And also there is the online as well. So there are a selected sessions that are also going to be displayed online. So if you do not have the chance to fly out to LA to the in-person Max, which if you do, make sure that you do though, because it's an exciting experience. You will be able to experience Max online like the previous year. And there is a ton of exciting content coming your way. way. So make sure to note these days down. And
Yeah.
I think that is fantastic that we're already giving a shout out, because it's good for people to plan, because
Yeah.
it's definitely worth it.
And go see last year's. It's online right now. I have a mobile photography and retouching course that incorporates mobile photography with iPad and Photoshop. So there's a little plug.
And also, yeah, all the courses that are on your website as well.
Yeah, I got a lot. Yeah.
So courses and presets, if I remember well from yesterday.
Yeah, I don't have presets on there. I do have some overlays, but I definitely have courses on presets.
Ooh, perfect.
I'm really big on folks learning how to use the tools themselves and not have to rely on other people's. Now, presets are awesome, and it's a great way to start, but we're going to talk a little bit today about how to do it yourself, because I think that's really important to understand the mechanics of your tool. And speaking of tool, I want to reiterate, I'm going to say this 100 times, it's the wizard, not the wand. So I don't care what device you're on. We had a few questions on this yesterday. Which device? Listen, gang, it doesn't matter that much. It really doesn't. And I guarantee you, going forward in the future, it's not going to matter even more, because the technology is, Jesus, it's like a racing ahead at lightning speed. So don't get caught up in the technology of the device. Yeah, get the best one you can. But if you're on an iPhone 9 or 10, you can still take amazing stuff. Android phones, I'm not familiar with, so I can't tell you which number. But heck fire, I even use a plastic camera, like a Holga. So
I think it's all like yesterday you were really going in depth regarding, the understanding and what is what. And that really makes a difference when then you choose. Because once you, for example, yesterday, make sure to go and watch the replay towards the end. And I'm sure we're probably going to pick it up a little bit today. We talked about how to add watermarks. And once you understand the mechanic of that, Lisa really showed us how you can use it to do something that is not even meant and, to be the final purpose for the feature, but you can really extend it in such a creative way. You really blew my mind.
Thank you, sweetheart. And I'm going to say, I think that's, if I can be a little braggadocious for just a second, I feel like my superpower with the Adobe products in general is to use them to think outside the box, to not use them necessarily the way they're intended. And that's just a byproduct of my career of having to figure out things at 3 a.m, that kind of thing, for movie posters.
5 minutes.
Yeah, basically. So I'm glad we're talking about this, because I am definitely not what's the word? It's not performative, but prescriptive teacher. So you're not going to get from me today nor yesterday, do A, do B, do C, do D. I like to give an overview and why and how and where do you look for things. I mean, there are a couple things that I do give an A, B, C, D, E description, but for the most part, you won't get that from me. And hopefully that's okay. Hopefully you'll be inspired. And I do want to reiterate, I'm all about like capturing and editing from anywhere. I'm just going to do a quick recap a little bit about philosophy of working. So for me, I really mean anywhere. Like I'm in Cuba and I'm on the back of a cart and I'm shooting and editing while I'm on that cart, holding on and posting to social. So this is an advantage. And I think Claudia, you and I talked a little bit yesterday about business and work. And with my social clients, obviously this is personal work, but my social clients, they demand immediacy. And part of the plus of the Adobe Lightroom ecosystem is how fast you can produce work and post it, even while on location. And I think that's really important for business these days.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Like the chance of going on the go is really amazing. And before we get started, Lisa, I just wanted to say hi in the chat. As I said, I'm sorry for the introduction, but I had that beep in my head, in my ear that was preventing me from talking. I didn't say hi to the chat. So just let me say a quick hello to everybody that is joining us live and watching us on YouTube and Behance. Make sure to use the chat to ask questions. We are live. And as I say all the time, Adobe Live is a safe space for everybody to learn together. So please use this time to your advantage and ask questions to Lisa. She's always, very happy and very, very informative with her answers. So do use this time during this live together. The chat that I'm going to be looking at is the Behance chat. So join us on behance.net/live right now. Although you can also watch us on YouTube. And Lisa, I also seen that you shared with me that Dropper links is for this deck that you're presenting
It's a
today.
new deck. Yes, I'm so sorry.
Fantastic.
I should have warned you. I'm so sorry.
That's absolutely great. So I'm going to be sharing that in chat, and you can see the lovely Cody will be able to translate that into a clickable link so you can have access of all this information. And I might just share yesterday as well.
Yeah,
just
maybe,
for those of you that are just joining today. So I'm going to share them both. Thank you so much.
And I think Criminy, yesterday's deck was like 140 pages, I think. 142 pages.
Gold,
ridiculous like that.
Gold info.
Hey, on the chat, I want to call out Ant Pruitt is in the chat right now, and he does an amazing blog on and webcast on technology and equipment and exploring what's coming and what's new. And Ant, put your link on in the chat so people can find you, because I think it's really important that we as a community share information. It's why I love this platform in particular. It's not about hoarding information. It's sharing. It's, you know, as you said yesterday, a safe space for us to say, hey, what do you do when your creativity's gone? Or how are you putting your logo? Or how are you monetizing this process? This is the time for this kind of discussion, I think. So,
absolutely. And you can just click on Ant names in order to access his profile. And I'm sure that all the links are there. But also welcome to Steve, Cody, Michael, everybody. You let us know, where are you watching from? Ant, do you know where Ant is based?
He's near Alameda, I think, or Marin, or he's upset. Is it the Bay Area?
In the Bay Area.
And he's wonderful.
Andrew Antone, Ryan Benoit, lots of friends here. Eva Loria, Marsha Gasset. Let us know, where are you watching from? I am streaming right now from Manchester, UK. We know that Lisa is in Los Angeles right now.
Yep.
Still. But
next time it'll be Lake Tahoe, but not right now. It's going to be here.
Wonderful. Fantastic. So I think let's get started.
All right. So I want to reiterate that I'm kind of a generalist. So that when I show my work, and we're going to be talking about this, I shoot all kinds of stuff. I don't do one specific thing. So this is a great process for editorial work, for landscape. However, we didn't talk about this yesterday. There is a fidelity issue for landscape work with mobile devices. You know, how sharp and how much fidelity do you have in the shot? But you can see with my images, I have a soft romantic kind of vibe. I do. These do hold up for my printing, but this is not Ansel Adams 4x5 or an 8x10 camera. Just want to be really clear, a little different. Macro, I love macro photography. And I think there is no better use for Lightroom than macro, because when you shoot macro, you really need to enhance what you see. And Lightroom is exquisite for this. I have to tell you, when I started shooting macros, when I really jumped into Lightroom hardcore. I love shooting my pets. Cows can be pets, kitties, dogs, whatever. And then if you shoot your pets, you're never short of a model, or never short of a subject. So they tend to not complain.
And fun, for sure.
Right? My kid stopped. He doesn't want to shot. This kid here, the big one in the middle, he doesn't want to be shot anymore. So I have to start looking to other resources. I was going to say, though, handy to have your mom doing like professional shootings. Oh, he'll tell you no, but that's all right. He'll thank me when he's older, or his kids will thank me. I agree. So anyway, again, it's a pretty broad spectrum of work you're able to do. And I love using mobile photography for travel. There's something about not having to have this heavy camera when you're walking around. So everything you see that I present ever is all shot on a mobile device. And if you'll notice, there's a picture of the Luxembourg Gardens here on the camera right side that looks like an illustration. And I'm going to talk a little bit about third-party apps and adding extra effects. And it's part of what we kept saying yesterday. Claudia was like, the ecosystem. And that is 100% what I want to talk about, the ecosystem, because it allows you to use these fun filters or fun apps to enhance your image. That shot of Havana with the lens flare in that, I assure you that sun was not there when I shot that picture. So that was added. All right. You'll never know. And you'll never know. I'll never tell, but I'll tell you guys. So real briefly, before we get into the developing portion, I want to talk to you a bit about thinking differently when you're shooting. Okay. Especially with mobile, because there's that tendency for people to just stand there and shoot at head height, and everything looks snapshotty, if you will. So just a few little tidbits of advice, if you don't mind. Framing and positioning, shoot high and then shoot low. And why not do practice for a while? Shoot everything high and low. So when you're out shooting and you see a scene and you think, oh, I'm going to shoot this high, for just giggles, get down and shoot it low. And you might be amazed at what you come up with. there's a really famous Times photographer, like the Time magazine, Gregory Heisler, and he came to Art Center and talked. And he said, whenever he does a shoot, a professional, big time, big shoot, he always, before he leaves, he turns around and takes a shot from another direction. And he said he is amazed how often that last shot is the one. So just a little photo tidbit there for you. Shoot low and then really shoot low. Like this is, you can tell by the trees, this is the exact same scene at the exact same time. I just got really down. It was cold. But again, look how different it is. Look how, something could look more snapshotty or perhaps more arty if you just get low. Heck fire, get high. Right? Get really high.
I remember this photo.
Right? Oh, winter was a doozer this year.
I was sending you love and prayers for you.
Yeah, no power. And I ran out of wine and coffee. It was not a good week. No.
That's real trouble now.
Yeah. Oh, tells people way too much about myself. Again, focal point, changing your focal point, focus on the foreground or focus on the background. Now, this is all in camera. This is not with Lightroom. Now, with Lightroom, you can use the masking to actually change your focus, but you don't get that bokeh you get when you shoot. So whenever possible, try to shoot it this way, and then you can enhance it in Lightroom later. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Lighting, maybe try backlighting. Try flares. I love flares. And how you get the flare, this is, you just tilt your body to the right when you backlight and bingo, here comes the flare. And then I'm going to talk about third-party apps that you can add a flare to if you need it. I love backlighting. And now, why do I like backlighting so much? So I will tell you, I shoot a lot of editorial jobs. And with editorial work, the subject is often the event, not the person, if that makes sense. So it's necessary to kind of obscure the person because people want, the client wants, or the author wants you to get into the story. And the story isn't who is that guy on the paddleboard? It's, can you be that person on the paddleboard and talking about the experience? So this is one of the ways when we're telling stories visually, you can obfuscate who you're talking about, who's the subject. Okay. I talked about Gregory Heisler and I was talking about, lighting and effects. So I shot this away from the sun. The sun is at my back, away from the light. And I turned around and now I'm shooting towards the light. And I would suggest that this is more interesting, isn't it? Shooting into the light.
I mean, I love them both.
Well, I just think for me, it's there's an entryway. So again, this is something to think about. And then with Lightroom, something to think about. Let's say you could not do this. You could not shoot towards the light for whatever reason. Well, in Lightroom, you can add lighting effects and light in the center and emulate shooting towards the light. So I always want you to be thinking, oh, I wanted to do that. Oh, I couldn't. How can I process it differently?
And I think that yesterday you were also talking about adding lights in studio photography as well.
Yes, exactly right.
Is that the same process?
It's shooting with lights, but sometimes you can't shoot with the light. So I'm actually talking about digitally in the darkroom of Lightroom, adding a light.
Yeah, that I don't know if yesterday there was like a girl, and I think it was like a shot.
Yes, so I'll be covering that today. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
You add the light afterwards. So I was just wondering if it's the same or not.
We're going to be talking about that today for sure. So the other thing I want to talk about is exposure with digital photography. And this is really important with Lightroom because Lightroom, like I said, it's amazing. It can do so much, but you have to start with something, right? So you want to expose for your highlights with digital photography, I find. And what I mean by that is not having your highlights so blown out that there's no information in there. It's really something to watch for. So while y'all are practicing or starting out, what I'd suggest is do 2 exposures when you're shooting. Shoot one for the highlight and then shoot one for the shadow, and then take a look and see what you get. This will make more sense as we're talking about processing later, but expose for the highlight is generally the safest tip. Is this helpful? Do you think this information?
I am loving it.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking questions. I need to see if there are any questions in the chat because I'm taking this personalized one-on-one.
Excellent.
With Lisa, I think it's amazing.
Awesome. I just want to make sure that because I know everyone's here for Lightroom, and it's like, well, what the hell is she talking about?
Well, but it will make. I'm sure that once we jump in app and we start to play with highlights and shadows, that will really start to make more sense for those
right?
that are starting now. Maybe So just be patient. Everything.
Yes. Everything in good time. And here's why I think one of the things that many of you have probably found, just like I have, is when you look at YouTube and you're looking at trainings, they just jump right into, oh, here's how you change the highlight. But they don't talk about why are you changing the highlight? Or what did you start with? So I want you to start conceptualizing while you're shooting. So like for this, contrast or no contrast. I shot this boat. It was a really, I hope you guys can see the originals are on the bottom, really foggy light day, but I wanted a contrasty image. So I can do that in Lightroom. I don't have to say, oh, I can't shoot today. Or the snow shot on the right, like it was really blustery and cold, and it didn't feel as dark as the photo came out. It felt light to me. Well, how do you do that? Well, you bring up your blacks in Lightroom. So again, I'm just trying to give you some ideas of how to do some editing. And with Lightroom, do you remember we talked about yesterday, Claudia, like the drawers? There's so many drawers. I mean, there's so many things you can do.
72 million drawers.
Right? So what if you took the exact same shot? This is the exact same shot. And edited differently. Try to edit one light where all the lights go up, but you keep some shadow detail in the tree, or you make it dark and moody. Same shot. Okay, just getting some ideas of how to process. And above all, do not be afraid of the dark. I am a huge fan of day for night. And what I mean day for night is I do not shoot in the dark. I do not go out in the dark. Yeah, the one color picture on the upper right-hand side is a night shot. All the rest of these are shot full daylight. Full daylight. Wow. And we're going to talk about that today a little bit in processing. And then again, a little bit of a repeat is the ecosystem. Everything, it's not either or. We talked about that bit yesterday. Like, should I work in Lightroom or should I work in Photoshop? And it's not either or, it's and. When applicable, it's and. So if you look at this shot, this was shot in Paso Robles, California. And there's a painter named Andrew Wyeth, who I absolutely love. Absolutely love his illustration style. And I was trying to figure out how could I emulate that feel and that look. And I wanted to put textures and patterns in it. Well, you can't do that in Lightroom in the same way that you can in Photoshop. So I already know when I'm shooting that easy peasy lemon squeezy, I'm going to go from Lightroom into Photoshop, and I'm not afraid of it. So I'm trying to encourage you guys to expand and not be either or, but and. Okay, right? So environment, maybe you use sky replacement in Photoshop for something different, right? Why not?
So cool. So many of these photos that you're showing us, like I struggle to think that they're actually the same shot.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for saying that, because that's actually part of my experimental process is how can I change something? I'm kind of an extreme editor. And this is just shot with an iPhone. The regular
extreme
no special
extremely
lens.
Precise.
Oh, thank you, honey. All right. So as we're going to talk about presets today, I want to invite you to experiment and try things you wouldn't normally try. Just try different presets and see what you get. I mean, look how different this one image could look just by trying different presets. Okay. I told you day for night. So there's the original. It's a bright, sunny day, but I was a little depressed that day, if I tell you the truth. And I wanted to make a picture that felt dark and heavy. All done in Lightroom. Okay. Wow. Again, magical work. Now this, the two left images are edited in Lightroom. The one on the right was taken into a third-party product called Mextures, and I'm going to talk about that. But again, it's all on my mobile device, either my phone, my iPad, and also the desktop. Okay. Day for night, Lake Tahoe in the day, suddenly Lake Tahoe's night, even though it's not night because I don't go out at night. Donner Lake, again, you can make book cover look like, I think this feels kind of like a mystery book cover. And by simply bringing up the blacks and adding a silvery tint, you can get one look or another kind of dark silvery. Again, shot that's early morning. That's the sun coming up. Oh, thank you.
I really love that silver feeling of it. And also I've seen like some of these photos. I feel like such a fun girl because I follow you everywhere. Like, oh yeah, I've seen this photo. Yeah.
That's so funny.
When you go to a concert and you know the songs, right?
Right. I do. Yeah. You're so funny. Someone had asked or mentioned on that bee shot, how did you get the bees to stand still? Well, it's a wasp. And I was at Donner Lake and I got stung by all these wasps. And then they died after they, so if they're going to sting me, I'm going to sting them after.
It was already
right.
Still.
So again, when we talk about editing today, I want you to consider something like this. Like maybe I have a very painterly style at times. So here's a shot, early morning, Donner Lake. And then this is the post-production on this. So let's take a look a little bit about what am I talking about. So obviously I made it warm. I did a color grading with this, but also I blurred the background to give it some depth. All done in Lightroom because the masking in Lightroom is utterly amazing. So again, you can go from something like this, which is kind of snapshotty, to hopefully something that feels a little more magical. right? Because we love Lightroom. And I did stress this yesterday also, and I think I'll stress it every time I talk about Lightroom or photography. You got to look for the story.
Yeah.
Is it,
storytelling?
Yeah, we're visual storytellers. Is it this no parking sign in the middle of the Sierras where there's nothing? There's no cars. There's no, like, what are you talking about? No parking. There's no cars. There's no nothing. Or, your son at the end of a hard fought basketball game where they got just crushed. Or, I don't know about you guys. My folks are old. I mean, we don't have much time left. And there's my son with my mom going down the path, or my papa in the hospital. So, I mean, stories, right? Just makes it more interesting. Are we ready? Are there any questions before we dive on in?
Everybody's just admiring your work. There is no question. They're just, clever use of the sky replacement with the B. They're just like lots of love for your editing so far.
Awesome. All right. So as we said yesterday, and I will say this forever, ACR is ACR. What do I mean by that? Adobe Camera Raw is Adobe Camera Raw. It doesn't matter if you're accessing it through Lightroom Classic, or if you're doing Lightroom. And I know there's this kind of, what do you call it? Is it Lightroom CC? Is it Lightroom Cloud? I just call it Lightroom. But I notice on the chats, like if I'm in a user group, everyone's like, oh, I'm in Lightroom and I'm having trouble doing A, B, or C. And everyone has to say, are you in Classic or are you in Lightroom? Because they function a little bit differently in terms of saving. So I save everything to the cloud. I am a Lightroom user. However, many of these things we're going to talk about today, you can use in Classic. It's just going to be slightly different. And then you can definitely use it in Adobe Camera Raw in Photoshop. Okay. So I just want to be clear. Now, we had a handy dandy question yesterday. I don't know if you remember. I had the little red
question exclamation mark on the top.
Right. So there's a preference setting when you're in Lightroom. So this is Lightroom Desktop. And in fact, I wonder if now is the time. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my Lightroom. So no one get mad at me, but I'm going to switch real quick to Lightroom.
Yeah.
Here we go. And so what I'm going to do, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, you'll be able to see this all right. I'm going to go to my preferences, and there's general and there's import. So, excuse me. The one I want to talk about is local storage. So this is my way of working, and other people have other ways of working. So you can store a copy of all smart previews on my local hard drive. You'll see there. But it'll start using up my storage. Now, right now, it doesn't look like it's a big deal, but I have clicked this before and the whole bar has gone red. Okay. Red. So for my workflow, I do not do this. Okay. You can do is store a copy of all originals. If you want, look at the menu went now. Do you see how the blue bar went all the way across?
Yeah. Very quickly.
So not interested in that. So I cannot, this is personal stuff. I cannot tell you how to do this. I am telling you how I do it. I store everything on the cloud. I lost a lot of work on drives that have failed. I mean, years worth of work. I'm not even kidding, because I had multiple drives fail. So for me personally, I choose to store my work on the cloud. It costs me some money, but it's worth it for me for peace of mind. You guys make your own choices. Happy to answer any questions about this, but it's really a personal workflow issue. Okay.
So you have double copies. You have copies both on hard drive and the cloud, or
I do not. I'm only cloud now. Okay. It's a bit of a risk, but it's just, I would have like terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of stuff, and it's not worth it to me anymore. All right. So real quickly, I'm just going to go back to my keynote for 1 second here, and then we'll keep going. Hopefully everyone's doing good. Today's like fireside chats. We're going to slowly talk about these things.
Everybody, Auntie's saying, keep going. Megan is saying, I love this. There are actually a question here. Are there settings we should change on our phone to get a better picture than the default settings? So this question is from Megan Price. Megan, I'm sure that Lisa is going to tackle that, but also I would recommend you to watch yesterday's stream, because we really dived in depth in terms of how to use all the different cameras that are available in Lightroom. But Lisa, I'm going to let you take the question.
Yeah. So the quick answer is definitely watch yesterday's replay, because it was a lot about capture. The quick answer is you want to shoot in DNG, which you can do on both an iPhone in their native app. You can shoot in Apple RAW, or through Lightroom, you can shoot DNG. And then the big thing in Lightroom is how you export. And I'm definitely going to talk about that today. So there are a ton of export settings, but the export settings default to a small size. So if you don't go into the drawer or under the hood, you won't know how to increase or change those settings. So hold tight. We'll definitely cover that today. Okay. Awesome. So I'm supposed to talk about all this stuff that's new in Lightroom, but I'm going to I'm going to fold it into demonstration. So I'm not just going to perfunctorily go through each one of these. I'm going to show you some stuff and we'll talk about it, but I'd like you to kind of have a list. So there's adaptive presets now available in desktop only. And what that means and hopefully you can see it on the screen, is you can change your sky and or your subject with these already preset edits created by Katrina Eisman. Sorry, I'm stuttering now. You have to do this on a desktop because it takes computing power and you can't do this on a mobile device. There are brand new presets, which we're going to talk about today. The black and white portrait presets, they're gorgeous, available mobile and desktop, and edgy portraits, group portrait. These are presets. Okay. And concerts. And I'm going to show you, I use concerts for landscapes. I don't use them for concerts. There you go, just to throw something different in the mix. And then when we're using these presets, what I'm going to talk about is there's a slider now, brand new, that allow you to change how much you put that preset. Think of it kind of like if you use an Instagram filter and you go to the edit, you can slide the filter effect down. You can now do that globally with Lightroom. It's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. Red eye removal, I'm 100% not talking about today. I haven't had a red eye in a camera shot in 10 years. However, if you have trouble with red eyes, it's now available under the Heal tool. Definitely check it out if that's something you need to use. If you have some animal shots where you get it, sometimes people get it with animal shots, you can use the red eye. So go look for that. There's a comparative view I'm going to show you, which you can look at multiple images, well, 2 images. And so you can pick the best one. Great for editing. Really great. And then we're going to talk at the end about video editing. Okay.
Excellent. So I have a question regarding the red eyes. There is any particular shooting techniques that you adopt in order to avoid red eyes?
I'm sorry, you're asking how I avoid it?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I haven't had trouble with it in forever. So I don't know if it's the cameras or the lenses. I don't know. I just thought that there was because I wasn't aware of it, just in case it was like a specific, Yeah, no, honestly. And hello, I went to school for photography and I'm like, I have no idea how this red eye gets. Someone in the chat will probably have a scientific reason for it. But I think with modern technology, you just don't find it anymore. Okay. However, it's there. If you need it, someone's going to need it and it's there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do a demo on is the portrait presets. And again, they're really beautiful. I'm going to run through a few samples of them. And I just want you to know what we're looking at. And very important, what we're going to do is I want you to look under the hood. So earlier I mentioned that I'd really like to show you how to figure out presets for yourself. Because there's something about clicking around and finding something magical. That's awesome. But what if you have a job and your client has a specific need and that preset doesn't work for what you're trying to do? I'd like you to start learning. So if you look at this preset, and we're going to do this live together, you can see in the black and white mixer, some tones got changed. And I'm going to show you that, but I want you to know that you have to go under the hood. Okay. So I think that's the last slide for this one. Yes. So I'm going to go back.
We're going to work on desktop or on mobile?
We're going to work on desktop for today. Perfect. Mostly on desktop.
And I can see on our little preview that we have like a little bit of a space on the top. So would you mind just stretching at the Lightroom at the bottom? If we could just
bring it down. So sorry. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, gang. I'm new to this whole live demo thing.
So it's okay. It's fine. I'm just gonna to think about there. Should be fine.
Okay. Awesome possum sauce. Okay.
Thank you so
So
much.
sure thing. Thank you for helping me with this. So right now I'm in my recent edit folder, and I mentioned yesterday, I am a huge believer in albums. I store all my shots in albums, and it's what I do in the middle of the night. I hate to admit this. I catalog my files into albums, my photos, and I suggest you consider that, because if you start really getting into this, you're going to have a ton of photos and you're going to want to try to find your photos easily. So let's take a look at this shot with Cole. All right. So I need to move us so I can see what I'm doing. And Bear, of course, the famous Bear. All right. So right now the editing buttons are on the right-hand side here, whereas on a mobile device, they're on the bottom. So I know we were showing mobile screens yesterday. And down here in the very bottom, I have versions. I'm going to click this off. Can you see this on the screen? There is some help showing up. So I actually really like this because Lightroom is coming up with so much new stuff. So they're saying, hey, by the way, there's versions. in case you didn't know what it is. And I like that little pop-up. I don't even know how to turn that off. And I like it because it allows me to learn new stuff that comes in. All right. So I'm going to go to the original here. And then I'm going to go to my editing sliders here on the camera right. So I'm going to click on the preset button. And when I click on the preset button, you'll see, holy guacamole, look at all these presets. There's a ton. Deep skin, medium skin, portraits, black and white, edgy group. If you're new to Lightroom, you're not even going to know some of these are new, but there are some new ones. And that happens to be like these portrait edgy or portrait black and white. And what you can do on the desktop, which I totally love, is you can just literally move your cursor down and see, I hope I'm not going too fast for the video recording. You can see whatever effect you like. I think I do prefer 8, but I'll show you all of them. The names, I don't love the names. I'm going to be honest. So that's
a little bit better.
Well, they're just non-descriptive. So PB01, that's portrait black, number 1 through 12. What does that mean? It doesn't tell you anything. Like, is it telling you that the blues are dropped out or the highlights or there's a color added? It doesn't tell you enough. So whatever. It's okay. It's still juicy and delicious. So I've now
maybe we can use this space to just like ask the Lightroom angels to do a little magic, maybe for Max.
Yeah, maybe. Well, and I get it. What are they supposed to call it, especially when things are international, and what an American would call or describe something is not necessarily what someone else would call something. So I get it.
And there is a lot. So I think that there are a lot of them coming out. So to give them like a pass on that, they'll probably be like hire a new person just to find names for things.
All right. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do. So I'm going to ask you to look and see what's happening. So first of all, when you click on the preset, you'll notice you get this amount slider now. This is brand new. So this is little and this is a lot. But look, it's even a little, it's black and white. Why is that? And that's because over here on the camera right side, you will notice that Lightroom has automatically switched my profile to black and white. Okay. So if you're not looking, you're going to be like, well, wait, I only want a little bit of black and white. No, it's going to be, if you're inside these sliders, you're going to be 100% black and white. Okay. So this is my way of teaching you how to educate yourself what's going on in here. So you can do a lot or a little. I mean, that's pretty fun, kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. And look at the green. That's green grass. Look what's happening to the grass. Huh. What's that? Well, let me show you. So first of all, if you open up the light slider, we'll see that basically the whites are added, just a little bit of details or intensities added to the lights, +6, and the blacks are lightened up, +9. Look at this curve. How many of you guys didn't know or knew that there's a curve? There's actually a curve inside Lightroom. So you can see what's happening there. So the curve is getting adjusted and there's a little light movement. Let's go to the color. This is where it gets good. So when you open up the color, you'll see the black and white mixer, because remember it changed the profile to black and white. And look at these yellows and the greens. So that's the yellows darkened. That's the yellows lightened. Greens darkened, greens lightened. So you're not stuck with the profile that they've given you. You can actually go into a profile, or excuse me, a preset. Too many P's. Profile, presets. My dyslexic brain loves to screw that up.
And portraits.
And then portraits. Blah, 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 blah. So when you make when you click on a preset, you can actually, aside from changing the amount of it. Oh, and look up here, the amount is still available. So let's say I go in there and I say, I want those greens to be black. I can still change the entire preset amount. Do you see that? Isn't that interesting?
I think it's amazing, and I love the way that you're really breaking this down in terms of really showing us what is going on already every time that we tackle the preset. And I think it's so beautiful that we have access to understanding the behind the scene. Yeah,
so you're not I think folks, I see it all the time on the user groups. People are like, oh, I need a wedding group preset. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why don't you just figure out what you need? What are you looking for? And how do you figure out what you need? You open up these and you look under the hood. So look at the blues. So those are the blues taken up really light. This is a tonal thing, right? Mm-hmm. So what if I wanted to put a logo in there up on top? Well, I might want to lighten the blue values, right? And look how Bear is starting to glow. It's kind of fun. And I like to do extreme editing. So you'll notice my shots are not kind of casual. They're kind of extreme. All right, let me keep going here. And then you can see if there's color grading on here. This one has no color grading, but I can add color grading if I choose to. So let's say you want to make a duotone out of this. So you want to think of presets, as I stutter, as a starting point. Okay. Right? Just a starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and leave my little nuance thing here. And then you can look at effects and you'll notice this happens a lot. They added clarity to it. Little clarity, sharpen it up a little. And then on a bunch of the presets, I'm not a huge fan of this, but you'll notice there's a ton of grain that gets added, a ton. Now, this may not matter so much if you're outputting for social or if you're looking at it on a mobile device, but when you output per a print, then this is really going to matter. Okay. And so now I'm going to go into the detail, not really, it's at 50%. There's a little color noise reduction, nothing too grandiose. And that's about it on this one. Okay. Now on my screen, I do not know how it looks on your screen. I would say the shadows are a little tiny bit blocked up. So I might want to up the shadows, just a hair. Depends on what you're outputting for.
Get all the bare details out.
Right. Little bare details. Now, and let's say that's a good start, or I'm going to Command Z that and take the shadows out. And I'm just going to jump ahead because I can't help myself. What if you just want Bear to have a little, or Bear and Cole to have a little more shadow detail, but not the background? You can click on the mask, click on select subject. It's going to pick Cole and Bear. See? Cool. Okay. We're just going to say yes. Sorry for all the things. So Bear and Cole are now selected. And now I can say, great. Can you just bump up their shadow details? And, oh, do I want their highlights darker? Like, let's say if you want them to look like they're cut out almost even, you could do that. Do you want to take the contrast down or up on them? And it's just them. That's so by adding a mask.
A click.
In a click. AI technology, it's amazing. And I'm going to talk about the mask a little bit later. So that's one thing. That's a preset, the black and white preset. You're not stuck with it. Once you use it, you can make some changes. Any questions about this particular one?
Yes, I was just gonna hold on, but there was a question regarding grain. So I just think if you can just explore a little bit more
absolutely
about grain and when and what and why not.
Absolutely. So personal preference as always. And I love grain. I use grain in particular when I'm outputting large prints. So I will take a shot this big, it's like a 35 megabyte file, and I'll output it to 27 by 40. And you want a little grain on it, I find. So I'm going to zoom up here. I don't know if this is going to translate on a televised screen here, but I'm going to really grain the heck out of this. Okay. And do you see these sliders? Oh my God. Are you guys ready? Everywhere there's a triangle or 3 dots, everywhere there is more. So there you go. Here you go. Little triangle. Look at this. I can make the grain tiny, oh, wow. Or I can make it huge. And look how soft it looks. So now this looks like an old photo, doesn't it? Like something you found in your grandma's drawer. You can also change the roughness. So I can make a lot of grain, large size and sharp, right? Or I can make it rough. Now it looks like it's like tissue paper, printed on tissue paper, something like that. So I can't answer the question of grain. There is no one answer for grain. What if you got an assignment to shoot a band, right? A rock and roll band or a punky band? You might want to add some grain, like do a black and white image and add some really thick grain to it. I will warn you though, ladies and gentlemen, when you add grain and you're looking at a screen, it does not look the same when you print it. So you really have to do a test. If you're just doing screen work, social work, that kind of thing, no big deal. What you see is what you get. But if you're doing a print, you want to do a test.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Sweet Pea. I was just going to say, the other great thing about this is Lightroom is non-destruct. So let's say you output this, you send it to your printer for a test and you're like, oh my God, that grain was ridiculous. No big deal. You reopen your file and you go, why don't I just dial that back? And then you re-output it and you're good to go, non-destructive. Does that help?
Absolutely. That's amazing. And one more thing that I wanted to add was regarding to the paper. So the test for the print also, test the different papers, because, Lisa was just you were actually mentioning different paper, frontal paper to a bit of rough paper.
Yeah.
The paper comes with a grain as well. And that's why it can be really overpowering sometimes. So absolutely, I can stress enough what Lisa said in terms of testing versus the digital, in which I think that when I post-produce in digital, I tend to add a bit of grain personally, just to go back and from that fully digitalized feel.
Yeah.
I mean, but you say it right. Depends on what is the final.
Well,
output.
it breaks up that JPEG look, that digital fragmentation. So adding grain could be awesome. And if anyone tells you, oh, it's always grain 6, roughness 2, softness, whatever, that's baloney. It's whatever the output. The destination is king.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
Any other questions about this?
No, everybody's just
awesome.
Loving your content, and Ant had to leave, so we're just gonna send him like a lovely kiss and a goodbye, because he's got his recording duties right now. So thanks.
His broadcasts are really, really interesting. It's definitely technological, like gear. He's a gearhead. I say that with love when I say gearhead. Okay, I'm just going to go back to my presentation for just a second, because as we talked about yesterday, the way I learn is I have to see everything. I have to see, what are we talking about? What are we looking for? And then I'll go into it's just the way my brain works. So in this one,
sorry to stop you there, because before we move forward, there was a question. We are like on a 1 minute or 2 minutes delay. So sometimes the questions maybe come just a moment later regarding the paper. So before we move forward, Ryan was asking, how do you compensate for print sometimes being darker than what you see on screen?
Well, I go to a professional printer who prints and he creates color profiles for me. So what I've decided is that I'm not an expert. So I'm not an expert at printing, and it's not worth my time to train to learn how to create custom profiles. But there is YouTube training. There's Eric Joseph from Freestyle in California, who has online classes all on how you create printer profiles. It's a whole science, just like learning Photoshop.
And also printers are all different as well. So
exactly right. So you need to learn how to create a profile for your specific printer, and, as Claudia said, and which paper. So for example, I have an art show opening on Saturday, and we printed on two different Hammermühle papers. One's metallic and one was watercolor, 2 completely different profiles, because the watercolor got too dense, the blacks got too saturated, so it had to be lightened up.
Amazing.
So don't think that you should hit Command P and select a paper and it's done. No. It's a whole science. If anyone wants to email me at lisa@lisacarney.com, I'm happy to send you links to people I know who do training in this kind of thing. This is not my ballpark.
And also ask questions to the printer, because that's how, like, I literally go and visit my printers when I can in person. And if not, I just, get the phone or email them. And, you might think that you're annoying, but that impact. And I found that, like, usually printer at the beginning, because maybe they're busy, they might get a little bit annoyed because you're overwhelming them with questions, but then that's how you build a relationship with your printer, 100%. By asking questions. So that's going to come back to you in the long term. Yeah.
So for me, consider a professional printer if you can afford it. And if you can't and you need to print your own, then train yourself. And consider a training, just like you learned Lightroom and just like you learned Photoshop. It's a separate training that you have to do. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lisa.
My pleasure, honey. All right. So again, the next thing I want to talk about is the concert. And this is me, once again, not drawing within the lines or coloring in the lines. Like, I always have to be outside the lines. So I don't shoot concerts. I'm not interested in going to concerts. I'm an old lady, but I love the concert profiles, presets, pardon me. There's those P's again, because again, it does some interesting looks. So this is the point where I say, think outside the box just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my screen. We're going to go back to Lightroom and let's go to this image. So here's my image, and I'm going to go ahead to my settings, my editing modules, as I like to call them. And I'm going to click on presets. Look how tiny these buttons are, right? They're tiny little drawers. It's a little overwhelming, which is why I do the handout and show you, like, click here, because there's so many drawers to click in.
We have another Lisa, which, by the way, just saying to you, Lisa, saying my ADD brain is absolutely loving the way that you display information.
Do you know what? I appreciate that. And I'm going to tell you, I find the majority of creatives I know are ADD. We're not linear thinkers.
Oh, yeah.
We're not. All right. So I've picked concert subjects for a lake shot. What, am I nuts? Yes, I am nuts. Because look how beautiful that is. Look at that smoky blue. Look at this. Ooh, this is when the fires come. Ooh, see, number 4 and number 1 are really similar. It's just a contrast change. Mm-hmm. I would have made those 1 and 2 myself, but that's all right. Ooh, number 5 is like number 3 with a contrast change. Do you see that? Number 6. Ooh, look how matte that is. You can tell the blacks got lightened. Look at the blacks. Look at them getting lighter. Dark, dark, light. So that's how you make a matte look. And we'll dig into this in just a second. But isn't this beautiful? And this is concerts. So please do not buy the notion that you have to use a concert profile or preset to do a concert photo. You can absolutely do a landscape. So I really dug number 1. Actually, I thought it was really beautiful. Mm-hmm. Once again, slider here, right? Less, more. Now, do you remember on Cole's shot, Cole and Bear, it was black and white no matter what? Well, on this preset, ladies and gentlemen, I really want to call attention to it. It did not switch the profile to a black and white profile. Okay. We're not talking about profiles today. That's a whole nother course. Just want to let you know there's all these profiles, which will change your look. Do you see how, Claudia, do you know the word for this when you scroll over something and it changes?
Highlights?
Yeah, no, there's some kind of word for the technology for that, whatever. I don't know what it is.
The preview, for the live preview.
Yeah, so the black and white will show you the contrast, but so I'm on black and white, but do you see how it's got color? Right? Well, wait a minute. What does that mean? Let's go to it. I'm on black and white on the concert, but it's got color. Huh, what could that be? You guys are brilliant. I know you're brilliant. Color grading. See, this is what I'm hoping to teach you. Like, no, your computer's not broken. No, Lightroom doesn't have a bug. You're on a black and white profile, but the preset is not giving you black and white. It's giving you a color. What the hell? Then you go, well, that's color. It's giving me color. Well, click along the color buttons, the triangles with the drawer you pull out, and look, and then you can go, oh, it's got color grading. Got it. Thank you. Does that make sense?
Amazing. That makes absolute sense. And I think, the fact that before we were applying it to the black and white photo really helped us now to understand how it is when the presets does it. And when you were talking about the concert, sorry for interrupting for this.
No, this
but
is
it's
good.
Almost like when you had on the, TV or projector, when you have audio settings as well, that it gives you like all the concert, stadium, I don't know what are the called. I used to do it like in Italian, but it doesn't matter exactly what it is. Just feel free to go ahead and test them. All of them. And there's going to be a time where you just have to practice and just preview them to see what happens.
Well, and I think it's a mindset. So I will tell you, I'm very good friends with a lot of the Photoshop team, and the Photoshop team will send me their beta stuff because they know I won't use it for what they intended it. I will not. I will try something completely different. So I'm here as the odd girl out to invite you to try to look at this completely different at all times. I want to call attention to something. So when I'm on the profile here and you click on it, so I'm clicking number 5, the amount slider is here. However, the minute you step over to the editing bay, as I like to call it, so let's say I go to effects, then you can also change it over there. Why is it not doing that now? Just because I said that. No, I didn't do it. Son of a guacamole. All right. I don't know why it's not doing it now, just because I called attention to it. Whatever. I'll pop up on it in a minute again. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to move on if this is good. So again, this is the brand new presets. There's I think 5 of them, and the preset slider, which is amazeballs and all brand new. Okay. All right. Cool. Let's go back to the handout, and thank you for letting me jump back and forth because my brain needs it when I'm talking about this stuff. I can't help it.
Oh, we're loving it. And again, for everybody who's just joining us right now, we are here with Lisa discovering all these amazing new features with Lightroom that have been released on Monday, but also to discover our workflow. And if you have just joined, you will see that we really are going to dive in a very special way throughout the new, but also the features that were already there in Lightroom with Lisa. And the slides that we are seeing now on screen, they're also also available for you from today and yesterday. The amazing Cody is there in the chat sharing the clickable links. So if you wish, and I would strongly recommend you to have access to these slides, make sure to click on the link and save them, download them, or just put it into your bookmarks, because those are gold information, hundreds and hundreds of pages of photography juice.
Well, and hopefully, so they're not annotated, by the way, so there's not a lot of words in them. They literally look like these slides. But what I'm hoping will happen for y'all is like you can look and go, oh, yeah, she was on that picture and she clicked on storm clouds. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that's that adaptive. And it just cue you to look, because it's a lot of information. It's a lot to take in.
Great reminders.
Cool. And what I want to show you with this, and I will demo this in 1 second, the adaptive presets. Katrina Eisman, who I absolutely effing adore. She's amazing and she's genius. She has created adaptive presets that automatically make masks for you. Automatically, AI technology. So what will happen is you will click on the sky, it will make a sky mask. And then what I'm going to show you is when you move the slider, like when you add to the slider, you'll get a secondary mask because it's adding more detail. Okay, so I'm going to show you that now. Let's go ahead and escape and go back to Lightroom. So much fun, right? A lot of the technology stuff that we're looking at that takes computational power, you will not see on the mobile device, okay? Because it just can't do it. It's too much. It's too much computing power. So the adaptive sky and subject are not on the phone. However, the minute you have done this, and then you go back to your phone, that mask and those adjustments will be there and you can change them. Now, as a workflow, for the most part, I do not go from my phone to my desktop back to my phone. For the most part, I do not do that. So anyway.
But it can happen, or you can be
traveling,
or, that could be a way in which to pick up where you left. Maybe if you have to hop on a plane or jump on a train.
Yeah, planes, trains, and automobiles. All right. So for example, and look, I love this because you get a dynamic preview. Ha, that's what it's called. Dynamic preview. I knew I'd get it one of these days. Blue drama sky, dark, neon, storm clouds is the one I want, sunrise and sunset. And if you use storm clouds, I can click on it. It's going to take a minute. Yep. So that's, do I want storm clouds? Maybe I want dark. What the hell? I'm going to pick dark. I'm going to change my mind. So I don't think this looks good, but I'm picking dark drama just for the heck of it. So what has it done? Do you remember I asked you earlier to go into the sliders? Now it's showing now, finally. Do you see this? More or less, but the profile, more or less of the profile. Mm-hmm. You understand? Profile, it says, damn peas. More or less of the profile, more or less of the preset. Okay, amazing. 2 Ps, 2 sliders. All right, I'm going to click on the mask because what it made was a mask. Do you see that? It made a dark drama mask. That's what it did.
Sorry to interrupt you there. But yesterday you mentioned about changing the color of your mask.
Yes.
Can we do that at some point?
We
don't
can.
have to do it right now. But...
No, we can totally do it now. So the mask, so this mask is red, right? You have this show overlay, and you see this? Do you remember I said those 3 dots? Drawers, 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 triangles and dots. You click on that. Look what you have here. You have color overlay, image on black and white. You can show pins, overlay settings. So if I click on overlay settings, I can change. Do you guys see how you can't see the overlay right now? Mm-hmm. You cannot see it. Do you see this little toggle? I'm going to turn it on. So now I can change the opacity. That's no mask. That's a thick mask, like a ruby lith. You can change the color to whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to just leave it as green. I'm going to close this. Where did I get that? I got that on the 3 dots on the right here. Overlay settings down on the bottom. Okay.
Amazing.
And
thank you.
on or off. Now, if it's off, you still can see it when you take your cursor and go over the icon for that mask. Okay. So I'm going to see if I can get this to repeat what I had earlier. So I'm going to take this dark drama and I'm clicking on the 3 dots and I'm going to go ahead and delete the dark drama. And yes, thank you.
Because
don't need a tour.
Not destructive.
Yes, it's being very, very handy. Again, you can turn, I don't know how you turn those off. You can turn them off. I like to have them. I like to have the help. So I'm going to go back to the storm clouds And then I'm going to make it more stormy. More stormy. Me talkie pretty. My English is awful.
There was reverb in the chat saying cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
Oh, it's interesting. It's not doing it now. It made me a double mask last time. Not doing it this time. It's computing it a little different. Anyway, adaptive. It's pretty awesome. Let me do another one. I'm going to go back. So clicking back here to my my 3 sliders on the upper right, click on presets. And now I'm going to do the subject. So let's see what it considers a subject. So I'm not sure if you guys can see this on the screen because it's a little subtle. I'm going to go ahead and click on pop. And I'm going to bump it up. So what is it doing? You might be having a little bit of a hard time seeing it right now because it's a little hard to see, but that's okay. I'm going to click on the mask icon on the far right. And let's take a look. That's what it's selecting. Okay, so I'm going to digress here for just a second to a section I wasn't going to go into yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Let's say that pop, and I'm going to go ahead and put the overlay on so we can see it while I'm doing it. That's really cool, but the rocks in the back, I don't want it doing that. I don't want it on there. So I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to subtract from that mask. And when I click subtract, it's going to say, hey, Lisa, which mask would you like to use to subtract? Would you like to select subject, select sky, brush, linear, radial gradient, color range, luminosity? Depth range is not available because, as I said yesterday, to use depth range, you have to have shot your shot with the depth camera in Lightroom Mobile. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch yesterday's episode and you will know. So in this one, I'm just going to loosey-goosey this. I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to use
the slide as well, isn't it? Because we had all this camera information in the slide as well.
Yeah, there's good slides for that. So there's sliders here to the right that'll adjust the brush, but I'm going to do it like with the Photoshop command. And I'm just going to click over it. And there's a little bit of a delay here. Let me put my flow way up so we can really see this. I hit subtract. Okay. Have we mentioned that sometimes the auto guides, the guides, the overlays. Demo gods don't love you? Because I can actually see it on the mask actually moving. But okay. So if you look at that little icon, it's actually moving. But anyway, this is where you can erase. I have no idea why it's not subtracting right now.
Well, and no also idea. we have the little icon with the brush and the minus that is already there, letting us know that.
Yeah, it should be doing it. Now I have double. Yeah. And on the icon here, you can actually see it's disappeared. Oh, now it's doing. It's just a delay.
Perfect.
Now let's talk about why is it delaying? Well, I'm doing a demo. I'm on my computer and I'm broadcasting. So the computer's going, and I have 7 other windows open behind this to show you later. So that's probably why there's a delay. So what have I done here? I've applied a preset. Let's go back here. So I've applied a preset of adaptive subject, and then I took the mask for that preset and I changed it. So we have 2 presets here, right? We have adaptive sky used for the storm clouds, and then we have the pop in the front. Okay, so 2 little mask adjustments. And then let me just zoom out here and close that window. Let's just go to versions for a second. I'm gonna click on original and then mask, right? So you can see the difference. Oh, cool. Okay, so do you see that jump in the image? That's optics.
How long would it have taken in the past to do something like that?
Oh, my sweet Jesus.
Like to select all the sky, all the different elements. Just imagine like the kid, the position in which he's in as well, in between his arms. And
you know what? I'm really glad you just said this. Here's why. This is that blending of Photoshop and Lightroom now. Mm-hmm. So before you would have had to do this in Photoshop. You just would have. You couldn't have made that kind of a sophisticated selection in Lightroom. But now, I'm so glad we're talking about this. So now for this kind of thing, I would think twice about bringing this into Photoshop because it's actually just as fast to use this in Lightroom. Where I use Photoshop for now, for me, is with my composites. Mm-hmm. Okay, so more and more it's compositing for me. And I would love to chat about this if people have any conversation about Photoshop versus Lightroom. All right, how are we doing on time? So we still have another hour, right?
I was just about to get the right time to pause for a second because
Yes.
we have about an hour to go. Although in 25 minutes now, we're gonna have the artist spotlight. So we're gonna just pause for a second. I know that everyone is thrilled about your work. Everybody's getting excited. I just think that like yesterday, we don't have many questions, but everybody's just amazed about the amazing information that you're sharing with us. But we do have the artist spotlight. That means that one of you on Behance is going to be featured today. We're going to throw the spotlight over one of you amazing artists. And I can just share already that guess you will be a photographer because that's the topic of the day. But most importantly, we do have the artist spotlight icon as little tab at the top of the chat. So if you want to make, maybe highlight your own portfolio, or if you want to share someone that you really admire, please go ahead and use that tab in order to share that portfolio here with us and to have the chance to be featured here during the artist spotlight. So that is going to happen in about 25 minutes. We're going to discover who is under the spotlight for today's show. We're going to spend, I think, about 10 minutes discovering the artist's work, and then we're going to jump back here with Lisa. So Lisa, if you want to keep going for now, I'm just going to give you like the 5 minutes.
Perfect, because I will absolutely need.
Perfect.
Sorry. Okay. Awesome. So the next thing I want to talk about, again, this is mobile versus desktop, and this is really important, which is batch processing. Now you can copy and paste edits from image to image on your mobile device. But if you use AI technology in your masking, you have to actually click on every single image and update the mask, the AI mask. So this is something you probably want to do on desktop. It's batch processing. It's great for big shoots like catalog shoots or multiple edits in one. And it's Command or Control V to paste. There's an edit button here on the right. You can see if you right click on an image, you get the menu that you'll see on the camera right here. You'll see it says paste entire section or paste edit settings. So I'm going to go back to Lightroom now and show you. I just want you to know what you're looking for and why, because we have ADD brains and we need some sugar every once in a while. So if you look at this catalog here that I just made for our little course here. So this is Dr. Cody. I love Dr. Cody. He's out of Truckee. And let's say I want to do some edits with him. So let's say I'm going to go to the versions for just a second so you could see where we started. And in fact, I think if oops, sorry. Yeah, I'm going to do it the way I should do it. So there's the original. Okay. And do you notice I can just slide over that? Isn't that awesome? I don't even have to click on it. So the original is pretty flat and boring. And let's say I wanted to add a green tone to the background and a light. And in fact,
so great, by the way.
It's kind of fun, right? So
cool.
Let's say for the background, and I have lots of masks here. I'm sorry. I'm going to create another mask here. I'm going to add a little more glow to him. So I'm going to create a new mask. And this time it's going to be a radial mask. Click and drag. And I want to add a glow behind him. Now, there is a lot to the masking functions. Like I have a 2-hour class just on masking. So I can't go over all of this with you right now. If we can come back to it later, I will. I'm just going over the overview.
Also, Lisa, you can tell us where we can find your courses though, because if you don't
awesome.
have it available, we can direct people.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a masking Lightroom and Lightroom masking mobile and desktop on Creative Live, and there's also one on Portrait Masters. They're a little different. The Portrait Masters is definitely geared for studio portraiture and masking, and the Creative Live is more general, like all purpose.
And we can access them from your website.
Yes,
correct?
I love you. Yes.
Perfect.
I couldn't do this without you, Claudia. I swear to God, I adore you. All right.
Well, there are a lot of things that I couldn't do without learning from you, Lisa.
All right. So here I've got Dr. Cody here. You can't see him because the mask is on, but the second you start doing a correction, you'll be fine. So I'm going to lighten the highlights, and actually I'm going to lighten the exposure overall. Now that's great for the background, but it completely looks like cack on him. No big deal, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, Lightroom, will you subtract that glow? Lightroom is going to say, hey, Lisa, where do you want to subtract this from? And I'm going to come over here on the right and I'm going to say, subtract it from Dr. Cody. So look what I have now. I have big, fat, beautiful glow, right? So I'm very happy with this. So now what I'm going to do, I hope you guys can see this on camera right side. I'm going to click on the 3 dots on the right. And I'm going to choose edit settings to copy. All right. So what do I want to copy? I want to copy the profile. I don't want to do crop or heal, but I do want to do masking. And I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to copy that. All right. So that is now copied. So let's say I was doing a social media thing, or I shot Dr. Cody or whatever. I wanted to copy this. So I would like to use that for these. So I'm going to select all of those images. And actually, I don't know if I need to deselect Dr. Cody. Here's what I'm going to do. I want you to pay attention. I'm going to hit Command V or Control V if you're on a PC. It is saying if the destination photos also has masks already on them, do you want to leave them or replace them or merge them? So I'm going to hit replace. So I'm going to start all over on those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images. It's going to take a minute.
I didn't know that you could just paste. Yes. That's so cool.
All done.
Amazing.
Yeah. And non-destruct, completely adjustable.
And that's again, another day of work.
Right. So what if I had 500 photos?
Yeah.
Right. Easily done. Now, here's the thing that's different on mobile. On mobile, you can do the exact same thing, only it will not update each one of those AI masks. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have to do those by hand. So what's an AI mask? An AI mask is anything that's auto-generated. So that would be anything that has select subject or select background, or select sky, So in this case, an AI mask would be just her, or if I selected sky for the background, because you can do that, or luminance range and color range. Okay. But holy guacamole, right? How much can you do on that? I mean, it's crackers.
So amazing.
All right. So I'm feeling a little pressure on time. So I'm going to keep going and talk about some other stuff here.
Everybody's loving it. And
awesome.
Tyrell is saying Lisa is just the best. And I second that.
Oh, and I love you too. All right. Super quick, really super handy when you're doing your, what's the word, culling? Like when you have to pick which image. And that is now brand new. Open in compare. So how you get that is it's a right click or control click to get comparative view. So very handy. Again, let me show you that. Forgive the obnoxious back and forth, but that's just how my little brain likes to work. So if I control click on these, I can open it and compare. Now, please note, pay attention, kids, look at the screen in case you're doing this while you're working. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images selected, right? It can only show me 2 at a time. But you got the little arrow button and you can go through. All right. Notice that the first one is staying there. The first image is the one that's staying. So how cool is that? So if you have the same gal and you're trying to see which is the best one to use.
So cool.
Like it's going to be this one. I'm going to put that logo to the right of her.
I would have that many years, for many years.
Right. So imagine how much money you save on your job. You do not tell your clients, by the way, that this takes 2 seconds. You do not. You charge them for the time. Please, please, please. Cool. So any questions on this?
Everybody's just absolutely amazed about your work and adoring all the information that you are sharing with us.
Awesome. Well, I love you all right back. Because this is that community that I wish we had more of, right? Like we could... You're on a job and it's 3 a.m. Who are you going to talk to? Right. And I will say, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second, Cloudy. The other thing is Adobe Live. This is what's so generous about your guys' broadcast is you really go into the real, like you said, safe space about talking about jobs. It's not just YouTube. Let me take 10 seconds and show you something rapid fire. No, it's let's talk about why and how and who.
And one thing that I love as well is that I've seen, first of all, I watch Adobe Live while I work myself. And the diversity of, in terms of roles, in terms of experience, in terms of backgrounds, in terms, there is an international community of professionals that are here sharing their own take on the apps. And, you are a great example of that, sharing all these different way of using the tools. But there are so many people, that they just do things differently, and that's the beauty. Like everybody does it their own way, and Adobe Live really opens the door to that, and I think builds confidence for the viewers as well to experiment and to build your own way of doing things.
Yeah, I think it's good to have other visions and also to get help, because you can chat. Someone in the chat right now could be going, oh my gosh, I'm doing a catalog shoot tomorrow, or I did one 2 days ago. how would I do A, B, or C? And I'm right here. I'm right here. All right. Another thing that's new and can be very helpful for people is something called group masking inversion or invert. And what that does, it allows you to invert a selection. So I'm going to show you a group of selections, excuse me. So I'm going to go back to Lightroom and I'm going to show you this real quick. I'm going to control open in detail. I'm control clicking on my my image and it takes me back to a single view. By the way, I don't know if you want to know that. Some people want to know that. I have to move our little preview because I can't see my screen. All right. So I'm going to go to this dude here and I'm going to go to his mask. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to the original. So I'm going to go back to my versions. I have a lot on him.
That's so useful. Love
I only have 2 on this one. How funny. I thought I had 2. Okay. So on this one, I'm going to go to a mask and I'm going to say, hey, I would like to select him. So it's a select subject and I'm going to show overlay. And I think I'm going to do something. It's not going to look really great, but I just want you to be able to see something. So I'm going to like really crunch him up. All right. Just so you can see it. Take the overlay away. And you remember on this overlay here, the 3 dots to the right, I can say, hey, I want to see this as like white on black. So look what that lets me see. It didn't get everything, right? So I want to add to the selection and I'm going to pick the brush tool and make it really small. I'm not going to do this super precise for this demo. I just want you to be able to get the idea. So let's say I did take a lot of time and make this really precise. Again, for this demo, I'm not going to do that. And okay. And now I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I can go back to not showing overlay. And now, I want the background, right? So how am I going to get the background? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I can check this out. And this is going to be on the handouts. I can duplicate this entire mask and invert it. So it's going to give me the background. So all those extra little things I have, it'll do all of that.
Amazing.
So there, right? I'm going to turn the overlay off. Okay, let's go back to the mask. Why are you just stop showing me the mask? All right, I'm going to go to the edit now.
I think if you just go back to the 3 little dots,
I shouldn't have to. It should just be regular. That's all right. We'll just do color overlay. All right, so now it's selected. And then now I can change the background. I can either desaturate it. See, I can take all the color out. I can colorize it even. Let's say I want to colorize it now, the background.
Change the color of the stool
and
the background.
And do whatever. And it just gets you started. Now, this is the point where I'm going to tell you, please label. It says mask 1 inverted. I should have labeled the one in the first place to call it subject. But you can always rename it. And do you see that right there? I can rename it. Please rename your mask because here's what's going to happen. You're going to start digging these things. Background. And you're going to need to know what it is. Okay. You're just going to need to know. So the power in this is it allows you to have multiple little masks. So you can have select subject, brush, linear gradient, whatever you want. And then you can flip it and get the background or vice versa. Okay.
Amazing.
Parliamo un po' di italiano. No, dai. Come no?
I think we need to keep the English, especially for the
No,
chat.
voglio parlare italiano.
No, we have Steve in the chat though. Steve is based in New Zealand, and we always do a little bit of Italian during my my usually creative challenges here in Illustrator. We have a little bit of a buongiorno, so good morning, good night, ciao. We have a little bit of Italian greetings when we start. I always say when we do the Illustrator challenges, we sharpen our skills in Illustrator and Italian.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to be multilingual here.
Yeah,
so,
and you lived in Italy, you were saying as well before.
I did. So here's the thing. The mask, there's so much intersecting you can do with the masking. And as I said, this is a whole course in and of itself, but just take a look at this one image, how much you can do with masking in Lightroom, relighting, changing stuff. I mean, it's pretty spectacular. So please start checking out the masking and don't just it ain't just like select one thing. It's combine and do the background and start trying, try this on your own shot, try something like that. All over the ecosystem. This is the time for me to reiterate something. When I did that shot of that guy, I did it on my phone. When I did that edit, I did it on my phone. And then we exported it out for the client for a little social post, because who cares? It's only this big. But for the more hardcore stuff, I brought it into the desktop to tighten it up. Okay. So again, I'm reiterating, it's all about the ecosystem. Yeah. All about the ecosystem. It's not one and done. Okay. And don't be afraid to use your iPad. The iPad's pretty awesome. I'm going to take a breath here for just a second.
Yes.
Yeah, the masking is pretty spectacular. So I would like to talk about third party. This is a whole section. This is about the ecosystem, embracing the ecosystem. And my type is not centered. That's awful. Would now be a good time? Can I keep going? And I'm going to cough.
Yes, we have about 10 minutes. We have about 10 minutes to the artist spotlight. So feel free to take 10 minutes. Feel free to take a glass of water if you need to. And in the meantime, we have Steve that, as I said, is a lover of Italian as well, saying that could Lisa get any cooler? Absolutely. We have Wells visited Italy as well. I can see in the chat that Steve is saying, now I have to go and live in Italy for a while. Absolutely. That is the best way of learning the language. But we are so excited to have Lisa back.
Sorry, when I talk a lot, I cough sometimes. So
if you need to take a break, feel free to take a break. We could also maybe do a little bit of the artist spotlight if you want to.
No, I think I'm okay. Just apologize. This just happens when I lecture.
Take your time. Take your time. We have 9 minutes, and then we're going to come back as well. So if you have more to show, and then hopefully we're going to have you back as well. So because I'm sure that you have more to show.
Oh my God, you have no idea.
Time.
All right. So this can be a little controversial at times for people, especially with corporations. But for some reason, oh my God.
It's okay. We're going to let Lisa take a little bit of time here. But in the meantime, I want to remind everybody that she made all these slides available. So if you do wish to have access to her work, as I said yesterday, she shared a deck that was over 100 page long. So make sure to go and access our deck for day one. And also we have this deck that we're going through today. So that will be a wonderful recap for you in order to see everything that Lisa has been covered. There's been a lot of information regarding the new feature, regarding how to use Lightroom in general, how to shoot in Lightroom, and a lot of photography tips as well that go beyond the editings, but just suggestions in order to understand why then the editings comes in order and enhances your photo and changes your photo. So I think we're ready to move forward with the third-party apps.
Yeah, so sorry about this. So again, embracing the application or the ecosystem. So what I mean by that is utilizing either your iPad or your phone to do specialty edits. Now I want to be really clear. You cannot do this in Lightroom. You export away from Lightroom and open these items up into another app. So to your camera roll. So someone asked, do you make a copy? I do. I send out a TIFF or JPEG, do my edits in another program, and then call it a day. So I really believe in this strongly about utilizing the ecosystem. Again, it's controversial because I'm a heavy editor. I like illustrated looks. I like lighting effects. I am not a traditional photographer, like get it in camera. So if that's not your bag of chips or whatever the phrase you're supposed to use, cup of tea, that's it, then this might not be for you. But if you are into this, holy guacamole, there's so much you can do. So these are some of my absolute favorite apps: tintype, Mixtures, lens flare, lens distortion, Prisma. Some work on Galaxy, some don't. I like to organize my phone into different apps so I can find them. So I happen to have capture apps, sketch apps, lighting apps, concept apps, and post-production apps. This is all in the handout. You guys don't have to take a screen capture. You don't have to write this down. Tintype. Do you remember yesterday we did those tintype overlays?
Yes.
If you guys didn't watch it, please check out yesterday because we have a whole thing on doing tintype in Lightroom. But this is an app that actually gives a tintype look. And it's pretty awesome. That's my before, my original, and my after. And I kind of want to tell you how this happened. This happened because I was in Manhattan and I was in a restaurant and I saw this piece and it was so beautiful. And I asked the maitre d' and I was like, oh my God, I want to buy a piece like this. Who did it? And the guy was like, I have no idea. Go away, lady. I mean, he was not interested in talking to me in any way, shape, or form. But you know what I did? I went out to the Brooklyn Bridge and I shot it. And with tintype, I made this image. It's different. It's my own interpretation of it, but I did it with a click of a button.
Amazing.
So again, it's an app called Tintype. I'm going to go backwards just for a second. I'm not sure if it's available on a Galaxy phone, but if you watched yesterday, you can get your own effect like this in Lightroom. So you don't have to have this app, but if you want to try the app, it's pretty easy. I want to be really clear about this, very clear. Hear me loud and clear, folks. A lot of these apps have cameras. They suck. I do not shoot in these apps. I always shoot with my Lightroom camera and then I import it. I mean, you can go ahead and try it, but I think you're going to find the quality is total crap on most of these apps. It's not what it's made for. It's made for the effect, not for the camera. Okay.
And we have a question from Steve. Lisa is saying, just wondering if you consider exporting the deck from Keynote to PowerPoint for the Windows folks. And he's also giving us a little instruction. We got to do is to go to File, Export, and then PowerPoint. So that will convert it to a PowerPoint for those of us who do not have access to a Mac.
Yeah, but they don't need a Mac because it's a PDF. So
perfect.
It's a PDF. So no, honey, I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. I love you.
Perfect.
No, you got a PDF. That was really mean of me. I'm sorry. No,
it's not mean because everybody can access it. Amazing. Cool. And we have 4 minutes before we enter the artist spotlight.
So I'm only going to talk about this app and then we'll go into the other ones because I'm hoping to expand your mind about what you can do. So there's a lot of, look at how simple this app is. It's got a couple four little buttons. It's really primitive. You can change color, but look how different these look just by switching color. You cannot choose your own color. This is primitive. You can change the plate grain, how much, but it's a slider. You can't type in a number. So it's not like Photoshop where you can do your own stuff. You can add a frame or not, but you can't change the frame. It's on or off. So again, it's super primitive. The eye intensity, I think it's kind of lame, whatever. The depth of field. I love the depth of field, but it's just a slider just from the center. Okay, so there's not a lot of flexibility. So I'll give you a workaround. If you want to change the depth of field, do it in Lightroom with the masking and then go into here and just apply the effect. Okay, so this is where you want to start being flexible about your back and forthness. Okay, yeah, that's it for this one. So I will get out of that, go back to my deck. Sorry for the coughing, but hey, what do you do, right?
Oh, no worries. And again, if you do need to take a break, just simply take a break. We can do a little recap here if you need. Just let me know. And also, we have the artist spotlight that is coming up in about 3 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and explore our artist spotlights.
Awesome. I actually put them up already. So maybe this is a good time to take a question. Sorry, sweetheart, I jumped the gun.
It's all right. It's all right.
Any questions from anybody or...
So everybody's loving the theme type. Maybe if you just want to point it out how we added the theme type yesterday, we're using the watermark. Where is the options to, because I don't remember was in chat, I think it was Bruce was suggesting that we could create the teen effect, the grunge effect using capture. So that could be an option with the mobile, and then mobile to mobile, go back into Lightroom and add it in the watermark.
So how I made I can actually, maybe if we have time at the end, I can show you. So how I made one of my Tintype effects is I used that Tintype app and I took a black picture, literally, or white picture. I put a white piece of paper and I shot with that Tintype camera and it gave me the borders. And again, it's not a complicated process, but you just have to wrap your hand around it, that in Lightroom, you can add a watermark, and that watermark can be any PNG, anything that's a PNG. So I made a PNG file that is basically black and white texture with a transparent center. And then I imported it as a custom watermark, and it ends up looking like a Tintype. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty well documented in the paperwork from yesterday. So if we have time later, I can go over it again or show how I made that.
And we have one more question from Megan Price. Asking, I know it's not destructive editing, but if you want to edit a picture with 2 different options, should I make a copy before editing?
No, you just do a version, sweetie. It's so brilliant. When versions came out, I literally danced. I danced around the room because I used to have to save out copies and make different edits because, as you can see, I changed my mind 1,000 times. All you have to do is make a version.
And maybe I think we can pretty much start to dive in. I know it's like a minute left, but
Okay.
we can start to dive in into the artist spotlight. But maybe are we going to go back in Lightroom after this?
Oh, yes.
And maybe we can show how to create versions as well.
Do you want me to do that right now or after this?
Will it take you 40 seconds?
Yeah, here.
I think we have 40 seconds.
40 seconds. Oh my God. No pressure here. No pressure here. So I'm in Lightroom.
A little bit.
I'm in Lightroom and I'm in my editing sliders right here. Can you guys see on the very bottom, there's a button that says versions, and I'm going to click on versions. You're going to die when you see how easy this is. Versions, create versions. Bingo. And I'm going to call this green background. That's it. Bada bing. So now I have
done it in 30 seconds.
I did rock on. So I have original. I have my social with logo. I'll explain that another day. And then I have my green background. That's all you have to do. All of it, full resolution, non-destruct.
Amazing. And drum roll, it's time to jump into the artist spotlight before we go ahead and we start to explore this wonderful portfolio of these artists. I want to remind everybody that if you do want to be featured, or if you do have anybody that you think that you should really feature during the artist spotlight, please click on the artist spotlight tab located on top of the chat here on Behance. That is the place in which you can submit your portfolio in order to be featured here during the artist spotlight. But tell us more about Bryce.
Okay, Bryce Chapman. Don't know him personally. Found him on, I don't even know, it might have been Instagram. Look at that piece on the left. That looks like a Pontormo piece. Does it not? One of my favorite Italian painters. Totally love him. This guy's work, he's a young man out of North Carolina. I love his vision. I love his color. I love his sensibility. This is his website. I can't show this, but he's got a section called Bear, and there are female nudes that are so tastefully done. This man clearly loves women, respects women, and shows the most beautiful imagery. His colors are out of sight. I mean, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? And he was like, this was his color study. He was talking about how much he loved orange. His work is colorful. It's evocative. I think he's pretty young. I own one of his pieces. I bought this piece. Oh, wow. It hangs in my house in Truckee, California. Mm-hmm. And I like to talk about that for just a second, about supporting people's artwork. Like, support each other. It's really important that we support each other. So I just want to, for a second, show his work. He's got portraits that are really, really beautiful. Look how grainy. I think he knows where the grain slider is in Lightroom. He might even be shooting film. I don't know.
Amazing. And by the way, I've placed his Behance profile in chat as well. I'm sure that Cody will transform it into a clickable link so everybody can go, and talking about supporting, can go ahead and give a follow to Bryce here on Behance.
I mean, look how beautiful. Oh, I just love that portrait. I love his vision. He's got projects. So he's got this kind of weird project. And this is another thing that I appreciate about his work. Like, those portraits were really sensitive and beautiful. And then he's kind of got this weird, wacky, dark, like, what the hell is this? And I love that about him. And I have to say, I might love this because I feel like I'm this kind of storyteller also. Like, I may have something soft and gentle and sweet, and then I have something that's just dark and weird. And I mean, look at this little kid and what's going on? I hope I'm not scrolling too fast.
Do you think that that's something that is like done with a mask, shot with a mask, or edited in Photoshop afterwards?
I think it's combination. You know, it's funny. It's definitely Photoshop for sure, but I think he shot the head
with a mask, some sort of mask. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I actually contacted him, and I wanted to talk to him a little bit about his process, and he was pretty moot about it. He was like, well, you know, and what he said, if I recall correctly, like, his work kind of speaks for what he'd say. So this is his COVID bit. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I can actually appreciate this, that he doesn't talk about his process so much, because I'll tell you, I've been interviewed a bunch of times about mobile photography, and people keep calling it iPhonography and that. And it really kind of distresses me a little bit, because I'm like, why don't we just talk about the work?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be about the camera? Who cares what device? Who cares what the technique is? Let's look at the work.
It's about the why and how, you know.
Yeah, what's the story, right? And I mean, look how diverse his work is too. And yet I love this series too. It's got a particular vibe to it. I hope I have a minute. I could show you one more series here. So anyway, I really encourage y'all to check out his work because look at this, the mirror. Oh, I love this. I love this. Look how beautiful these are.
And it's almost like applying a mask by using a mirror, and in this case.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting?
Gorgeous.
And look at the coloring. And I love how he goes from orange, all that warm orange, to cool to bright. Yeah. Look at this. Isn't this cool?
Amazing. Yeah. I really love it. And again, there's so much more also. And colors. Once you open is a Behance. I don't know if you can access this Behance.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
But there are like a lot of orange, and then next to the orange we have that green next to it. So I think that really showcases what you were telling us before.
Oh, sorry.
So we have the oranges and the green, and we have a project that is being featured as well. So absolutely amazing.
Pretty interesting, huh?
Very, very beautiful.
Yeah. And I think he sells prints on his website. So you can, check it out if you want to buy anything or not, or just give him some support. He definitely needs more followers. He only has 139. So let's see what we can do about that and bump his numbers up.
Come on,
give him a thumbs up, right?
Fantastic. And I love that you can see like all the mood boards as well. Of inspiration. I don't know if you ever go through that. But there is a lot that you can explore here on Behance in terms of not only see, if you also go to appreciations, the next tab, we can also you basically can see where the artist eye lends to in terms of inspiration, because everybody gets inspired, and that's the beauty of what I do that all the time on Behance. See the appreciations, because I think that is nice to see where people that you admire what inspires them.
I mean, let's talk about this. If you look at the eye of the beholder, look at that color scheme. That looks really similar to something that Bryce had utilized, yet the images look totally different. And I know everyone's watching this on Behance, but I don't know how many of y'all found it through a different link. I think Behance is so underrated. It is such an amazing resource, like crazy ass amazing resource for inspiration, styles, getting your work out there, like community. It's really a great
and
community.
Getting hired as well. There is the opportunity of sharing jobs and finding jobs here on Behance
absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I think it's time to jump back into Lightroom.
Awesome. All right.
Some editing. What's the plan?
All right. We
have about 20 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to hurry because I really want to I want to show you some stuff that, bear with me for 1 second, that you might.
You with a little print.
I bought his print.
Love it.
I was so excited. So here again, I'm trying to show you stuff that people may not show you. So I want to shove this in as fast as possible because I think this is part of sharing through the community. So another really great filter, mobile and desktop also, is Flood. And Flood is amazing. It allows you to add water effects to images.
Oh, wow.
Really amazing. I use this all the time in my personal work. Look, this is me using it. I told you I have an art show, or I mentioned I have an art show tomorrow. These are a couple prints that are going to be, they're big. They're like 40 by 60 inches, and it's all on grief. And the water, all that water is put in with the Flood filter. So while it is available for mobile, it's also available for desktop. Everything here is shot with a mobile camera, edited in Lightroom, and then brought into Photoshop. And then there's some 3D elements put in. All right. This is my favorite thing I want to show you. It's called Mextures, and it's a texture program. And why I'm supporting the ecosystem of this is you can't do this in Lightroom. You can do this in Photoshop with a bunch of layers. In Mextures, you can do this with a click of a button. Okay. They have a desktop version. So this is a shot, the peonies. I showed these yesterday in a group setting, edited in Lightroom in the middle. And then I was feeling a little dark and blue, and I made that dark image all with Mextures. I want to be really clear. This program is slow as molasses on an iOS device, super slow, but I do not care. Because it's absolutely beautiful. It is available for a desktop version. And I've got a little demo here I'm going to show you. So do y'all remember I showed this cactus pictures yesterday? And I want to talk about process. So with this process, it's captured and processed in Lightroom. So the original is on the left. My very slightly altered process in Lightroom is in the second frame. And then I process two of them in Mixtures. Now, Mixtures doesn't do layers. It's a layering effect, but you can't output the layers. So then I had to take it again through the ecosystem into Photoshop and make it work. So I want to show you this real quickly. I hope this is interesting to you guys. So this is me in Lightroom exporting it. Okay. And then I just navigate to my device and I open Mixtures. Exported my image, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. We're going to talk about exporting in a little bit. Now, this is where it's slow. On the iOS device, it could take a while. I just clicked on my library and you have to wait a minute. It's going to pop up here. Oh, I got a root canal yesterday after our class. There's a picture of that. Cheers. So there's my picture and it wants to crop it for Instagram, which I never do. So I use uncrop and I use these formulas. So these are already programmed textures. And I'm going to show you more about this in just a second. So I like the destroyed ones. So there's the first one I used for the flower itself. So I outputted this. It's called top down. And then I'm going to click on Fire and Ice. Look at that one. Oh my gosh, so amazing. And there's a lot under the hood here. There's a ton you can do, even within Mixtures. And then I just output this. And then I'm going to put this in Photoshop. And if we have a second, I'd like to open up that Photoshop file. But here's what I want to show you. This is a very, very important window. Do you see how it says Save Formula? Once I come up with a mixture of Mixtures that I like, I can save that within Mixtures. Like I could save it as my cactus version. And then every cactus photo I take, flower, I can open it up in Mixtures and use that same formula. I can also send that formula to someone. So you could be in Manchester or you could be in Lucca and I can send you this formula and you can open it up on your mobile device. Okay. So I always want to encourage you guys to embrace the ecosystem. And here's what I mean by this. So some people want to make some money selling fine art prints. This is one of my images I sell. So what I did is I shot it in Lightroom, processed it in Lightroom, and exported these two pieces from Mixtures. And then I opened it in Photoshop. So do you mind if I open up Photoshop real quick and show this?
Oh, no, please.
Awesome.
Let's go ahead and open Photoshop.
Okay. So I'm going to open Photoshop. And I'm going to open recent.
I mean, that's the beauty of the ecosystem, just to show.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to move my screen here. I apologize.
It's okay.
We're not fussy here.
Do your thing. We just have about, we'll say 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
To go.
All right. So I'm sorry. I have a lot of plugins and stuff. I should have managed this window a little better. So here's what I've done on this.
And Lisa, since we are now on this app, I think you will have to make this screen a little bit smaller. So we can see the entire app.
Okay. One momentito, my friends. I'm a newbie at this whole thing.
It's totally fine. Perfect. All we want to see is as long as you see the tool. Perfect. Okay. And thank you.
Is that good enough for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can see the layers panel.
Awesome. So do you remember the Fire and Ice? That's the Fire and Ice one. And then I did a little saturation. I took a little red out, nothing big. It's just a little hue saturation, take some red out. Now on the class yesterday, I did this whole conversation about tintypes and how to make tintypes. So this is a tintype, looks like that, right? At 50% opacity. Please watch yesterday's class if you want to know about how to make these tintypes or where they came from or how to use them in Lightroom. So that's a tintype, but it was a little heavy. So I put it at 50% opacity. And then I did that flower. Do you remember that flower? I said I outputted me talking pretty. That. So I just layered them and they all fit exactly right on top of each other. And I masked it in. But it was, Jesus, that's a little too much, right? So I wanted it at 20% opacity. And then I just wanted to change the tone a little tiny bit. Okay. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. And you can do this on an iPad also, if you want to. You don't have to do it on a desktop. Now I want to show you one of my tricks, one of my super tricks. And that is patterns. So I think patterns can be your best friend. especially if you're taking mobile photography and printing it out. So I have this gray thread fibery pattern, and I could probably email you guys this if you email me. I think it's pretty fun. I put it on overlay mode. So I hope you could see on the screen, you could see what it's doing. It's starting to create some texture to the piece, which I think really helps. And you remember in Lightroom, you can add grain to diffuse an image. Well, here I wanted to use this fabric, but heck fire, it's too much, right? It's over the whole piece. This is where I'm going to use something called blend if sliders. So I'm going to double click, look here to the right of the name, gray threads. And I'm just going to double click on that. And I'm going to say, hey, where it's black, don't have these fibers. So I'm going to slide it over, and you can see how it's starting to disappear. Well, that's a pretty harsh disappearing, like it looks crunchy. So what I'm going to do is hold the Option or Alt key, and I'm going to split the sliders. And this allows me to make a gentle mask. I'm going to hit OK on that. And I'm going to turn this, I'm going to turn the layers off and on so you can just see them kind of turning on. And what this allows me to do is get this painterly look to my piece. Sorry, I have to rezoom that out. Sorry. Our little chat window keeps showing up on the bottom, so I have to keep moving us around here.
It's okay. We don't see it anyway. It does a good job hiding itself, but that's great.
But I see it. So then it allows me to do these textures, and then I can just change the opacity. And why do I do this? I do this because with digital work, you get that JPEG fragmentation. And this is a way to make something look very painterly. I just happen to use a thready texture to do that. And again, I'm going to zoom in super tight, before and after, before and after. So hopefully you'll find that useful. Again, how you use the ecosystem is you don't have to feel like you just need to be in Lightroom, and you don't need to just be in Photoshop. It's all of it, right? You can do all of it.
So
okay,
cool.
Awesome. So
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
I was just checking if there were any questions, but there are no questions.
Okay.
Just amazing.
So again, shot in Lightroom, shot on my iPhone in Lightroom and edited. This is Paris in the Dark. It's a series I happen to be working on, and I can't get those textures in Lightroom because they're multiple. So I shoot and develop as much as I can in Lightroom. Then I bring it into Vectors and add the texture on top. Okay. So I think it's pretty versatile. Ooh, there's a typo. How nice. So this shot, again, I showed this yesterday, the original, the Lightroom version, and then the Vectors version. It's that same fire and ice. So I'm trying to get y'all to experiment, right? Look, you can do some pretty fun stuff. And this is why you could do the fun stuff in that particular program. It offers these textures and light leaks, and there's a million more than what I'm showing here. Okay. And again, that's the program. There's formulas. It's a pretty deep program, so I can't keep going into it, but at least you guys are exposed to it. I'm sorry, it does not work on an Android yet, but you can do it in Photoshop and you can do it in Lightroom. They have presets for Lightroom, just no texture. I want to be super clear, no texture in Lightroom. These formulas, you can share formulas with each other. So if you guys want to write this down or look on the handout, my formula of EIUGFQA, if you plug that into Lightroom, into Vectors, you can get this particular look I have made on your own image. Okay. So you can share with the community, which is pretty awesome. All right. Ooh, I have to hurry. Okay. The next super groovy app, which I showed you earlier, this picture from Havana, is lens flare. So while I was in Havana, I shot this car and I couldn't get the right angle for the flare because the sun was too hazy. I just added it in my phone while I was standing there. And I'll tell you, people thought I actually got that in camera, and I was like, no. And I posted it to my social. No one knew. Works on a phone or iPad, lens flare, also on Photoshop. So look how cool. You can add all these different flares. It's pretty remarkable. Again, this is a way you add to what the programs don't already do. Does that make sense? This is where you're enhancing something that the program you're in cannot do. So it's not in competition. It's actually an additional, like a little decoration on top. So speaking of decoration, I use lens distortions all the time. You guys know I do day for night photography, right? Well, you cannot have stars if you're shooting in the daytime, right? No stars. So I make a day for night, and then I add my stars using lens distortion. It happens to be snow. It's not stars, but nobody cares. And I like to do this kind of illustrated look. So if you see, these are a couple winter shots. It was biting cold when I took these photos. I mean, I think it was like 8 degrees out. It was freezing. The pictures don't look that cold. Like the originals, look how flat the originals look. It was snowing, by the way. You can sort of see on the camera left, but you can't capture that on an iPhone. You cannot capture moving snow for hardly at all. So this app allows me to add snow and texture after the fact to make a picture feel like it felt, right? So again, lens distortion, and I think it's pretty remarkable. Not all of the pieces are free, or the options are free. I'm sorry, I don't know what's free or what's not anymore because I've used it so much. So I have a subscription, but it's certainly worth a check out. And the coolest thing they have, I think, is type. So unlike Cloudy, I suck at type. She is fabulous at type. Me, I suck at type. So I often use this program to add type to my Lightroom images. So this image here, Paris in the Dark, shot in Lightroom, edited in Lightroom, texture done in Mextures, right? Do you remember that black flower I showed earlier? It's a very similar texture to that. And then I did the type in this program, and it does it on a high res TIFF. So it's totally high res. Okay.
Amazing.
All right. How are we doing on time, honey?
We have like 4 minutes.
Ah, crap. All right. Tangled percolator. It's on the handout. Prisma. I think Prisma is awesome. I use it all the time. I probably use Prisma more than the other two. Why do I use this? I use this to add an illustration look. So with my clients, with social media, often they are asking for more. They don't want just a photo. So in Lightroom, I can make it soft. I can make it slightly painterly, but I can't do this to it. So Prisma allows me to add this really cool illustrated look. There's a standard definition and high definition. So look at this guy's shirt. The texture in the shirt is way better in the high definition. I use this for editorial stories I tell. So this is a story about, you can look it on Instagram. It's a very personal story. And I wanted to express some pain that I was going through, which is one of the things our art does. It's a really great avenue for us to talk about what we're feeling. And there are so many looks available in this program that allow you to get the feel and vibe. So again, these are shot on an iPhone, in Lightroom, processed in Lightroom, composited in Photoshop. And then this is one of those times where I go from Photoshop to my phone to create the look. Okay. I'm hoping it's helpful to talk about the work process a little bit.
Yeah. And this is just reminded me of, Express. I don't know if you had the chance of using it yet. So that's what I personally use to add all these textures and text and even animation sometimes, and then export it as well. So I don't know if you had a play with it. If not,
and you're talking about Adobe Express?
Yes. I know.
Great.
It's brand new.
Excellent. So I want to talk about this for a second, and it's about revisiting programs and technology. So I will tell you, it used to be, do you remember when the magic wand was the worst tool ever in Photoshop? And then technology got better. And now it's amazing, actually. It is no longer the piece of crap it used to be. It's fantastic. Express is one of those apps that I need to go back to. And I appreciate the reminder because technology gets better. And I would like to do more of this compositing on my pad. I presume it's available on the iPad as well.
Express is available on any web browser. So you can actually access it just simply by typing express.adobe.com. It's all synced with your libraries. Is really mind-blowing. And also there is a specific dedicated channel on Creative Cloud YouTube. So if you just go ahead and look for Creative Cloud Express or Express, you will be Adobe Express. You will be able to find so many tutorials, inspirational, and how to use it. And Lisa, you will absolutely love it. And
fantastic.
Not only you can edit, but you can post and schedule posts from the app as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, and there's text, there are graphics, textures, there are illustrations, and the quality of it is like honestly, they've hired a bunch of amazing, the staff has done such a fantastic job to putting this together. And Lisa, unfortunately, we really have to do like a quick recap about everything that has been going on. If you just want to kind of take us on this quick journey in about a minute of what we've done before, unfortunately, I'm going to have to start to say goodbye.
I understand. And I want to say that Adobe Live, like through Behance, please watch the other things. This is the community. This is where we're learning. So please remember, Lightroom just came out with a bunch of new things. Please download the deck because it'll all be in the deck, but there's batch processing, there's masking, there's presets, automated presets like the sky preset and the subject preset, the preset slider, the comparative view. And these are all just tools to use to tell your story. So above all, please experiment and have a story. Think about what you're trying to do. Check out Bryce Chapman's work. Check out Behance and see if you can emulate some look with that, right? You can find me at lisacarney.com. Happy to answer any questions you have. I do have some tutorials listed on the deck. So if you get the deck, you can find some different tutorials and also some sites for inspiration, because we work in a vacuum, don't we? It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's really important. Like, I'm so thankful you said Express. Like, I totally forgot about that. And now I've got a huge note here to go check out Express.
Absolutely. And we also have our decks, amazing decks that Lisa has shared with us with all this wonderful information. Lisa, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing all these amazing tips about shooting, photography, and of course how to retouch and edit with your personal twist, which makes everything look special and incredible. And you know that I mean it, Cara. So I want to also, unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye, but I'm also remind everybody that there is another episode of Office Hours with Andrew Ocrado and Nick Longo following exactly this stream. So as soon as we finish, go and grab a glass of water because they're coming up with surprises. There is a surprise party going on, so make sure to check it out. There is a mysterious episode as well filled with a lot of tips and tricks, so make sure to tune in. And as a reminder, in recognition of Juneteenth, Adobe Live will not be streaming this Friday, but from Monday, business as usual, every day back at Adobe Live for the fun. Right now, it's time to grab a coffee or a cup of water and come back for Andrew Ocrado and Nick Longo with Office Hours. And I will see you everyone very soon. Thank you again, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye.